They're shocked because they expected their lies to shatter you, not sharpen you. They thought deception would destabilize you, but all it did was make your vision clearer and your peace harder to disturb. They're shocked because their cheating didn't break your confidence the way they intended. Instead of collapsing, you watched, learned, and grew quieter, and that quiet unnerved them more than any confrontation ever could. They're shocked that every plot they crafted behind your back never provoked you into chaos. You met manipulation with composure, and nothing threatens a schemer more than a target who isn't reactive. They're shocked that while they tried to paint your world in confusion, you walked through the storm with an unbothered smile, refusing to let their darkness stain your inner calm. They're shocked because they had expected outrage, tears, or vengeance. What they got instead was a level of emotional distance so cold it made their betrayal feel irrelevant. They're shocked that the truth they hid so desperately didn't even have the power to move your heartbeat. You processed their disloyalty with the same energy you'd give to bad weather, something you notice, not something you fear. They're shocked because their cheating was supposed to hold power over you. Instead, it exposed their weakness, their insecurity, and their inability to ever have someone like you fully. They're shocked that all the whispers, secrets, and backstage plotting never changed your consistency. You stayed kind, stayed focused, stayed graceful right in front of people expecting you to fall apart. They're shocked that every attempt to control you only revealed how uncontrollable your spirit really was. Your calm became the one thing they couldn't predict or influence. They're shocked that the more they lied, the more you smiled, not because you were naive, but because you already knew, and you chose to watch them ruin themselves without interference. They're shocked because they confused your silence with ignorance. Now, they're learning silence can be a strategy far sharper than confrontation. They're shocked that the person they tried to deceive was 10 steps ahead the entire time. You knew the plot long before they performed it. They're shocked that the betrayal they thought would define you actually defined them. It exposed their character more than it ever damaged yours. They're shocked because they realize now that you weren't holding on, you were observing. You weren't blinded, you were patient. They're shocked that nothing they did shifted your self-worth. You remained whole, untouched by the dirt they tried to drag you through. They're shocked because you didn't respond with revenge. You responded with removal, and that is a punishment far more severe than anything they imagined. They're shocked that while they tried to deceive you in the shadows, your intuition had already illuminated everything they thought they hid. They're shocked because the moment you left, their entire web of lies collapsed into itself. It only stayed stable because you stood there holding it together. They're shocked that your smile wasn't a sign of ignorance, it was a sign of control. You were controlling your exit, not clinging to the situation. They're shocked that you handled betrayal like a business transaction. No emotional debt, no dramatic reaction, just clean detachment. They're shocked because you didn't crumble under the weight of their deception. You simply shifted your energy away, and that shift created a silence they now fear. They're shocked that the truth didn't break you, it freed you. You walked away lighter than you ever were with them. They're shocked because your strength was never loud, never violent, never attention-seeking. It was quiet, and quiet strength terrifies the weak. They're shocked that the lies they once celebrated now haunt them because they realize you saw through every single one. They're shocked that the betrayal they thought empowered them only made them look small, standing next to the way you carried yourself afterward. They're shocked because you smiled through the chaos, not out of denial but out of mastery. You knew exactly who they were and exactly who you were becoming. They're shocked because they never expected you to evolve through their mistreatment. They expected you to sink, not rise. They're shocked because your happiness after betrayal is a mirror showing them what they'll never be strong enough to achieve. They're shocked that you let them play their entire game before walking away. That kind of patience is a different tier of power. They're shocked because you didn't expose them. You let time do it. Time always does a cleaner job than confrontation. They're shocked that your smile wasn't weakness, it was a warning. a warning they were too arrogant to interpret. They're shocked because nothing they did broke you. Instead, everything they did revealed you, and everything you did revealed them. And that revelation is the one truth they can never forgive themselves for. They never expected that the same smile they tried to break would become the very expression that haunted them. Every time you smiled through their lies, it wasn't innocence, it was awareness. They thought they were manipulating you while you were quietly studying every move they made. Your calmness rattled their guilt, your silence destabilized their ego. Now they look back, terrified of how much you actually knew. They don't know how to process the fact that nothing they did ever cracked you. Not the betrayal, not the deception, not the secret plotting behind your back. You smiled through it like you were watching amateurs perform. It infuriates them that they never saw fear, only understanding. That smile became the proof that you were already ahead of the entire situation. They genuinely believed you were blind to their games, but you were giving them space to reveal themselves, handing them rope they eagerly wrapped around their own intentions. You watched them sabotage a connection they weren't mature enough to value. Your smile wasn't weakness. It was acceptance that they were never deserving of your deeper layers. And that acceptance set you free long before you left. Now they sit with the uncomfortable truth that they weren't the villain in your story, they weren't even a major character. Their actions felt huge to them, but tiny to you. You mentally detached, while they still thought they were winning. They didn't realize you had already moved on emotionally, long before physically walking away. What kills them the most is that you were never emotionally destroyed the way they expected. You didn't crumble, you didn't break, you didn't chase closure. Instead, you carried yourself with a composure that made them second-guess the power they thought they had. Your smile became a reminder that they failed to damage what they couldn't reach. They hate that you handled their betrayal with elegance instead of chaos. You didn't shout, you didn't expose, you didn't create drama, you simply observed. And the moment you had all the information you needed, you withdrew. That level of control terrifies people who rely on manipulation. It proved you were dealing with them from a place of strength, not desperation. Your silence became the mirror they never wanted to face. In that silence, their guilt grew louder. Their lies became heavier. Their conscience became sharper. You didn't need to confront them. Their own mind did it for you. And that was far more painful than anything you could have said. They thought you would react emotionally, but you responded strategically. They expected tears and instead got distance. They expected anger and instead got indifference. They expected a breakdown and got evolution. Nothing confuses a manipulator more than losing the power they imagined they had. It bothers them that you never fought to stay connected, because people fight for what they feel dependent on, and you didn't fight at all. You walked away with a steady heart and a quiet mind. That calm exit still burns them more than a dramatic goodbye ever could. They hate that you outgrew them so naturally. You didn't force anything, you didn't rush anything, you simply elevated out of their reach. And now they're stuck replaying everything, trying to figure out the exact moment you realized you deserved better. It hurts them that they can't pinpoint it. They are disgusted by how peaceful you became without them, as if their absence didn't create a void but removed a burden. Your glow irritates them because it proves they weren't the blessing they pretended to be. You healed so effortlessly that it damaged their pride. Your growth feels like an insult to their ego. Every improvement you make is a reminder that they misjudged you. They expected you to struggle, but you flourished. They expected you to chase them, but you never looked back. They expected regret, but regret never came. They can't stand that you didn't lose anything when you lost them, because they needed you far more than you ever needed them. You were the stability, the maturity, the loyalty, the depth, everything they lacked. Now they're left grappling with the truth that you were the prize they failed to protect. Seeing you happy without their presence wounds them more deeply than any confrontation would. Your joy contradicts the narrative they created about you. They told themselves you were weak, emotional, dependent, but your life now proves the opposite. That contradiction eats them alive. They will forever remember the moment they realized you didn't break their heart, you shattered the image they built of themselves. They weren't mourning a lost connection. They were mourning the version of themselves they believed you worshipped. When you stopped validating that ego, everything they relied on crumbled like dust in their own hands. They told themselves they were irreplaceable, but your silence proved how replaceable they truly were. Nothing hurts an ego-driven person more than discovering the world moves on without them. You didn't destroy their emotions, you destroyed the lie that your world revolved around theirs. Their heartbreak wasn't about losing you, it was about losing the power they thought they had over you. They weren't sad that you walked away, they were shocked you could. Their ego had written a story where you'd always come back, and you burned that entire script the moment you left. They held on to this inflated idea that you needed them more than anyone. You were the reassurance that kept their pride alive. When you withdrew that reassurance, their entire sense of self collapsed. You didn't break their heart. You broke the throne they put themselves on. They crafted a character for themselves in your life, someone superior, someone adored, someone indispensable. But you saw through that character, and when you walked away, you ripped the mask off. Nothing terrifies an ego more than being seen without its costume. They told everyone they were the strong one, the hero, the prize. But when you left, their behavior exposed the truth. Their confidence was built on your validation. Without it, they became restless, insecure, and desperate. You never harmed them, you simply removed the mirror that made them feel attractive. They weren't ready to face the version of themselves that wasn't special. Your absence revealed that they weren't remarkable at all, just loud, selfish, and entitled. The heartbreak they claim to feel is nothing compared to the humiliation they're trying to hide. They always assumed you would break first. They assumed you were the emotional one, the softer one, the one who would cling. But when you turned cold and unmoved, it shattered their identity. They weren't prepared for you to become the one who felt nothing. They never expected the day would come when you saw through their illusion. To them, the relationship was a stage, and you were supposed to play the supporting role. The moment you walked off that stage, the spotlight turned harshly on them, revealing flaws they had hoped to keep hidden. They thought they were the exception in your life, the one person you'd never walk away from. Losing that belief was the true heartbreak. Their ego wasn't just bruised, it was crushed under the weight of your indifference. They loved the version of themselves they got to be when you admired them. They loved how powerful they felt in your presence. But when that admiration vanished, they became ordinary again. They weren't grieving you, they were grieving the identity they lost. They built their self-esteem on your softness, your forgiveness, your emotional generosity. When you stopped giving that, their ego shriveled. You didn't break their heart, you unplugged the source of their false confidence. Their anger wasn't about the end. It was about the realization that they never had the upper hand. That realization punched through their pride so violently that they mistook ego death for emotional pain. But it was never love. It was self-worship. They're furious because you didn't fall apart. They needed you to cry, to chase, to beg anything that proved they still mattered. Instead, you became quiet, calm, distant, and that calmness screamed louder than any breakup ever could. What shattered their ego most was realizing you saw their flaws long before they saw them in themselves. You knew their patterns, their manipulations, their insecurities, yet you still treated them well. That level of maturity exposes how small they truly were. They claimed you were dependent, they claimed you couldn't leave, but the second you actually walked away, their entire narrative collapsed. You didn't break a heart, you broke a delusion. They imagined you would collapse without their attention, yet you flourished. That glow you found afterward was the knife in their ego. Nothing hurts a prideful person more than witnessing your happiness without them. They are haunted by the moment they realized you weren't angry, you were simply done. Ego thrives on drama. Indifference destroys it. and your indifference became the trigger that sent their inflated identity spiraling downward. They keep replaying the past, trying to find the moment they lost control, but the truth is they never had it. You were always observing, always learning, always preparing to let go. What they lost wasn't love, it was the illusion of dominance. Their heartbreak feels so intense because it's not directed at you. It's directed inward. They're grieving the false version of themselves that your presence helped uphold. Without you, their inner weaknesses became impossible to ignore. Their pride can't accept that you weren't impressed by their mind games. They believed they were clever, but you were 10 steps ahead, waiting patiently. When you left, they learned that their biggest tactic was powerless against someone who already knew the truth. They hate that your exit exposed what they truly were: insecure, manipulative, and emotionally small. They didn't lose a lover, they lost the only person who made them look larger than they actually were. The world sees them differently now because they act differently now. When their ego cracked, so did their confidence. They can't hide it, they're not the person they pretend to be. You didn't break them, you revealed them. Their entire identity was built on being admired, so when the admiration disappeared, so did their sense of worth. They didn't lose you, they lost the fantasy they created of themselves in your mind. They can't forgive you because you didn't participate in the emotional chaos they expected. You walked away cleanly, calmly, and fully. That kind of exit destroys people who rely on emotional leverage. You left with dignity. They were left with insecurity. They're hurt because you no longer see them as someone special. You see them accurately now, and accuracy is devastating to someone who thrives on illusion. Your clarity was the blow their ego never recovered from. Their identity depended on controlling the narrative. But your departure forced them into a role they hate, the one who was left behind. And nothing is more humiliating to an egotistical person than being the abandoned one. They hate that they can't rewrite the story. They can't say you were weak. They can't say you were desperate. Your strength took away every excuse they depended on. That's not heartbreak, that's ego annihilation. They lie awake not because they miss you, but because they miss the version of themselves you reflected. They miss the superiority. They miss the validation. They miss feeling important. You didn't break their heart, you removed their pedestal. Their world feels smaller now because you were the only one who made it big. Without your depth, their life feels flat. Without your loyalty, their life feels empty. Without your honesty, their life feels shallow. That emptiness they blame on heartbreak is actually the death of an inflated ego. Every time your name comes up, they feel exposed. Everyone can see the truth they're trying to hide. You outgrew them, and they weren't enough. That's not heartbreak, that's humiliation disguised as pain. They will always resent you because you forced them to confront the reality they avoided for years. And the reality is simple. You never needed them as much as they needed your admiration. You didn't break their heart, you broke the illusion that kept their ego alive. In the end, what they mourn isn't love, connection, or loss. They mourn the identity you shattered by walking away. You didn't break their heart, you broke the image they built, the ego they fed, and the superiority they clung to. And nothing destroys a prideful person more than realizing the person they tried to control was the one who held the real power all along. They never imagined you would end things with the same precision someone uses to terminate a failed business contract. No emotions, no hesitation. No dramatic farewell, just a clean, final closure that left them staring at the ruins they created. They thought the relationship was sentimental to you, something too soft to ever be treated like a failed agreement. But once their betrayal crossed your limit, you switched into a version of yourself they never believed existed, someone who can close a door without a single tremor. They are shocked because they thought endings required chaos. They expected screaming, guilt, tears, or desperate attempts to fix what they broke. Instead, you acted like you were signing off on a deal that no longer served your growth. They didn't realize that once you see the truth behind someone's intentions, your heart no longer negotiates with them. You saw through their excuses, their games, their dramatics, and once you understood the pattern, you ended the contract of connection without a second thought. They thought they had sentimental credit in your life, something that would buy them one more chance. But you declined their emotional currency like counterfeit notes. You gave them nothing to bargain with. They are shocked because you didn't engage in explanations. You didn't wait for apologies. You didn't demand clarity. You simply walked away, as if the entire experience had become a liability you refused to carry forward. They always assumed you were the emotional one, the one who would cling longest, forgive quickest, and return easily. But when the moment came, you displayed a cold professionalism that stunned them. You ended the chapter with the same energy you'd used to close a file. They can't believe how quickly you switched from warmth to calculation. One moment they thought they still mattered. The next moment you made it clear that they were simply a bad investment you wrote off mentally long before you physically left. They are shocked because you didn't drag the ending. You didn't stretch it with nostalgia or hold on to what-ifs. You ended it at the exact moment their value in your life dropped below zero. They never imagined you had that kind of internal discipline. They feel powerless because they expected you to negotiate, to debate, to ask why. But you gave them no negotiation table, no meeting, no closing argument. You simply exited the building and left them with their own mess. They are shocked at how you didn't even give them the satisfaction of a dramatic goodbye. You treated the ending like removing a malfunctioning app, quick delete, no warning, no recovery option. They don't understand how you can cut emotional ties with the same smoothness a CEO cuts a failing project. To them it was personal. To you it became logical the second their loyalty failed the audit. They thought they had leverage, history, sentiment, something that would soften the blow. But you proved that once your trust is broken, you don't cling to what was. You evaluate what is. And what was no longer had a place in your future. They are shocked because you didn't care about optics. You didn't care how the ending looked from the outside. You didn't justify, defend, or explain. You simply closed the deal and left. They are confused by how peaceful your exit was. It wasn't emotional escape, it was strategic withdrawal. The kind of calm that comes from knowing you stayed too long in something that wasn't worth it. They thought they were indispensable in your story. But you showed them that anyone who threatens your peace becomes negotiable. They're shocked because you didn't leave like a lover, you left like a business mind who knows their worth. No sentimental debt, no overdue loyalty, just an immediate closure of accounts. They thought you'd hold on to the idea of them even after their actions stopped matching their words. But you treated inconsistency like a termination clause, one breach, and the agreement ends. They're stunned that you didn't bargain for closure. You created your own closure instantly. You closed the book without needing their final chapter. They still replay the moment you walked away with that calm face, the face of someone who knows that dragging a dead deal forward only creates more losses. They're shocked that you didn't attempt to fix anything. They expected you to try patching the broken parts. But you saw the damage as intentional, not accidental, and intentional damage deserves a definitive exit. They never imagined the same heart that once cared so deeply could detach with such cold clarity. But that's the thing about you, once the line is crossed, there is no partial forgiveness, no temporary hold, just complete termination. They're haunted by the speed at which you cut emotional access. They thought you would still be available, still soft, still reachable. Instead, you became distant like a closed office, lights off, doors locked, no further service. They can't comprehend that you didn't leave to punish them. You left because the situation no longer deserved the version of yourself that tried. That's what stings the most. They are shocked because you dismantled the entire emotional connection with one internal decision. While they were preparing excuses, you were preparing the exit. They thought your loyalty was unconditional. Now they're learning your loyalty has terms, respect, honesty, effort, and they violated every one. They look at you now and can't understand how you can be so unaffected. But you're not unaffected, you're just evolved enough to know when something isn't worth a post-mortem discussion. They never expected you to choose your dignity over their presence. They thought their presence alone was enough to keep you. They were wrong. They are shocked because you closed the chapter without opening a new wound for yourself. You left clean, not broken. You left steady, not shattered. They don't know how to process someone who can leave without bleeding. They still don't understand how you went from giving everything to giving nothing. But that's what happens when you finally see the truth. Love turns into logic, and logic never begs. They're confused because you're not angry, not bitter, not vengeful. You're just done. And done is a language they don't speak. They can't believe the chapter ended without your heart fighting. But your heart didn't close, your standards did. And your standards don't negotiate with disrespect. They never realized you treated the relationship like a partnership, mutual effort, shared value, equal responsibility. When they stop meeting their end, they turn themselves into a terminated contract. They are shocked because you didn't call it a breakup, you called it closure, and closure has no room for renegotiation. They still can't accept that your calm exit hurt them more than any emotional explosion could ever have. You didn't slam the door, you simply stopped opening it. They thought you were weak, emotional, easy to manipulate. But the way you closed that chapter proved one thing. You were the one holding the pen the entire time. And nothing shocks them more than realizing you stopped writing them into your story long before they noticed their character had been replaced. They are stunned because you didn't even leave the page bookmarked. You didn't leave space for a return, a rewrite, or a re-entry. You closed that chapter like a file you'll never access again, and the permanence of that silence terrifies them more than any fight ever could. They can't understand how you managed to walk away without keeping a single emotional thread attached. Most people leave pieces of themselves behind, but you collected every fragment of your energy and took it with you, leaving them with nothing but their own actions to replay. They are shocked that you didn't demand accountability. You didn't ask for explanations or apologies. You didn't try to correct the ending. You let their behavior speak for itself, and that silence cornered them with the truth they tried to avoid. They expected you to hesitate, to reconsider, to soften at the last moment, but you didn't flinch. You closed the deal with the confidence of someone who finally understood their own worth, and that confidence pierced through their ego like a blade. They don't understand how you can sleep peacefully while they stay awake, haunted by the abruptness of your exit. But peace comes naturally to someone who walked away from chaos with a clean conscience. They're shocked that you didn't check on them afterward. They kept waiting for the "Are you okay?" message, the one that would feed their pride. But your silence became the loudest message you ever sent. They never expected you to treat their betrayal as irreversible. They always counted on one thing, your weakness for the bond. But you turned that bond into a boundary the moment it became a burden. They are stunned because they finally realized they never had emotional control over you. They only had proximity. And once that proximity was gone, their power evaporated instantly. They keep trying to understand when the shift happened, when you went from caring to calculating. But the truth is simple. You didn't change suddenly. You changed gradually every time they crossed a line. They are shocked because they didn't see the version of you who can detach without resentment. That's the version they can't fight, can't manipulate, can't guilt trip. That version of you is untouchable. They didn't expect your exit to be permanent. They told themselves you were just taking space, just cooling off, just waiting to be pulled back by familiarity. What shattered them was realizing you never circled back, not out of revenge, but out of self-recognition. They feel rejected not because you left, but because you never looked back for validation. Your absence didn't beg for explanation. It stood complete on its own. They thought distance would soften you into nostalgia. Instead, distance sharpened your self-respect into something unmovable. They expected your return to confirm their importance. What broke them was discovering your return was no longer necessary. They feel rejected because your life continued without consulting their memory. You didn't pause at the door of the past. You closed it. They hoped time would weaken your decision. They didn't realize time was strengthening your boundary with every quiet day. They assumed your worth lived in their recognition of you. What unsettles them now is knowing your worth never required their approval. They feel rejected because you didn't come back to renegotiate your dignity. You kept it intact and carried it forward. They expected longing to make you pliable. They underestimated how powerfully peace can anchor someone in place. They thought your love would override your limits again. They didn't anticipate the moment your limits finally outranked your longing. They feel rejected because your silence doesn't ache for them. It doesn't call their name. It breathes without them. They are unsettled that your independence didn't look dramatic. It looked steady, and steadiness frightened them more than anger ever could. They thought you would need closure through their understanding. They didn't see that your closure arrived through self-recognition. They feel rejected because you didn't try to be understood anymore. You chose to be finished instead. They expected your memory to soften into regret. What they discovered was that your memory matured into discernment. They told themselves you would return out of habit. They didn't realize you broke the habit by changing the meaning of home. They feel rejected because your growth didn't include them. Your future stopped reserving space for their past. They hoped loneliness would send you back searching. They didn't realize solitude had become quieter than staying ever was. They assumed you would be pulled by history. They didn't account for the force of self-respect rewriting gravity. They feel rejected because your worth didn't collapse without their presence. It expanded. They believed your leaving was emotional. They didn't expect it to be philosophical, to be rooted in principle instead of pain. They feel rejected because your return would have meant they still held emotional authority over you. Your absence took that authority away. They waited for you to soften with time. They didn't realize you hardened into clarity instead. They feel rejected because you broke the unspoken agreement to always come back. You rewrote the rules without malice. They expected explanation to reopen the door. They didn't realize explanation was no longer required where certainty lived. They feel rejected because you didn't need a villain to justify your leaving. You simply needed yourself. They thought your staying had once proved your loyalty. They didn't consider your leaving would become the truest proof of it to your own life. They feel rejected because you chose yourself without apology. That kind of choice exposes every place they expected you to shrink. They believed your heart would overrule your standards again. They didn't expect your standards to finally protect your heart. They feel rejected because your future stopped narrating their relevance. They became context, not consequence. They assumed your return was an inevitability. They never prepared for your permanence. They feel rejected because you didn't come back wounded. You came back to yourself whole. They wanted your departure to hurt you more than it hurt them. What unsettles them is realizing it healed you. They feel rejected because they expected regret. What you gave them was resolution. They imagined your leaving as collapse. It became construction. They feel rejected because you didn't choose distance as punishment. You chose it as alignment. And this is the truth that finally settles into the silence they can't escape. You didn't stay away to teach them a lesson. You stayed away because you learned one. You didn't leave because you hated them. You left because you finally respected yourself. You didn't return because your worth was no longer something you were willing to bargain with. They feel rejected because they still measure value by who comes back. You don't. You measure value by who you no longer abandon yourself for. And that is why your leaving became permanent. Not because they were unlovable, but because you finally became unavailable to anything that asked you, to be smaller than your worth. They keep waiting for the version of you who once doubted your own value, not realizing that version dissolved the moment you chose yourself without hesitation. They feel rejected because you didn't upgrade your life with them still attached to the blueprint. You redesigned the whole structure without keeping their shadow in the frame. They feel rejected because your healing didn't require their apology, their growth, or their acknowledgement. You healed without their participation. They believed your silence meant you were struggling. What they didn't accept was that your silence meant you were finally effortless. They feel rejected because your peace didn't wobble when their memory tried to re-enter. It stood firm like a boundary carved into stone. They assumed your identity was shaped around them. What shattered them was realizing you had an identity that thrived without them. They feel rejected because your strength looks natural now, not forced. It scares them how well it fits you. They thought your love once defined you. They didn't expect your self-respect to redefine everything. They feel rejected because your absence has weight, not emptiness. It carries intention, not longing. They believed nostalgia would pull you backward. They didn't realize nostalgia now feels foreign inside the life you built forward. They feel rejected because you didn't replace them with another version of the same mistake. You replaced the entire pattern. They assumed you would grieve them loudly. You grieved quietly and finished early. They feel rejected because they can't still reach you emotionally to confirm their importance. Your inaccessibility rewrote their role. They thought your return was a matter of timing. They didn't understand it was a matter of standards. They feel rejected because your confidence no longer seeks external permission. It stands alone. They believed your worth once depended on how deeply you loved them. They didn't realize your worth now depends on how deeply you protect yourself. They feel rejected because your life stopped referencing their relevance entirely. You moved from reaction into direction. They thought your leaving was impulsive. They didn't realize it was the most deliberate decision you ever made. They feel rejected because you didn't come back in pieces. You came back to yourself whole. They expected your strength to be temporary. They didn't expect it to become your baseline. And this is where the truth finally locks into permanent shape, beyond doubt, beyond reversal, beyond emotional negotiation. You didn't leave to be chased. You didn't leave to prove a point. You didn't leave to test their love. You left because you finally understood your value in a way that could not be unlearned. They feel rejected because they still believe that people return to what once hurt them. If they loved it enough, you prove something else entirely. You prove that love without self-respect is not loyalty, it is erosion. You proved that absence can be an act of dignity. You proved that your worth was never something they granted you. It was something you finally claimed. They feel rejected because you never went back. But the truth is simpler and far more powerful than that. You didn't go back because you never abandoned yourself again. And once that decision is made, nothing, not memory, not apology, not familiarity, has the authority to undo it. That is not rejection. That is self-sovereignty, and it is permanent. They feel rejected because your evolution did not ask for their permission. You didn't consult the past before choosing the future, and that omission unsettles them more than your departure ever did. They are disturbed because your life no longer leaks regret. It moves with forward pressure, not backward pull, and that makes their memories feel heavier than yours. They feel rejected because your joy doesn't reference them as a missing piece. It stands complete without footnotes, without apologies, without empty spaces waiting to be filled. They believed your leaving would eventually tire you out. What they didn't expect was how energizing it would become to finally live without self-betrayal. They feel rejected because your standards didn't soften with loneliness. They're shocked because while they're still bleeding emotionally, you've already cauterized the wound and moved on. They expected you to be stuck in the same pain cycle, replaying memories, questioning yourself, breaking quietly. Instead, you detached so cleanly it feels unreal to them. Your calm looks unnatural to people who are still drowning. They don't understand that detachment isn't denial, it's mastery. You didn't escape the pain, you finished processing it. And now their suffering feels lonely without you sharing it. They're hurting because they're still living in the aftermath, while you've already stepped into the aftermath's aftermath. They wake up with questions, regrets, and emotional noise. You wake up with clarity and direction. That contrast messes with their head. They thought pain would keep you emotionally tied to them. They didn't realize pain could also be the thing that finally cuts the cord. Watching you move on while they're stuck feels like betrayal to them, even though it's just growth. They're shocked because your detachment isn't loud or performative. You didn't announce healing. You didn't dramatize the exit. You simply stopped reacting. And nothing scares hurting people more than someone who no longer reacts to what once controlled them. Your silence feels like rejection on a level they weren't prepared for. Not emotional rejection, existential rejection. Like they no longer exist in your internal world at all. They're still hurting because they keep revisiting moments, replaying conversations, wondering what they could have done differently. You already did that part long ago. Quietly, privately, completely. By the time you detached, the emotional work was finished. To them it looks sudden. To you it was overdue. That time gap is what shocks them. They're grieving now what you already mourned while still standing beside them. They're shocked because you didn't detach halfway. You didn't stay emotionally available while pretending to move on. You didn't linger in mixed signals. You cut clean, and clean cuts heal faster than jagged ones. They're still bleeding because they keep reopening the wound. You closed yours and walked away. That difference makes them feel abandoned, even though they helped create the conditions for your exit. They're hurting because they assumed you'd miss them the way they miss you, but missing someone doesn't look the same when self-respect is involved. You don't miss chaos. You don't miss being misunderstood. You don't miss shrinking. Your detachment isn't cold, it's selective. And realizing they no longer qualify for access to your emotions breaks something in them. They're shocked because detachment was the one thing they never saw coming. They expected anger, tears, even revenge. Detachment never crossed their mind. They didn't know that once someone detaches deeply, there's no emotional leverage left, no guilt, no nostalgia strong enough to pull them back. Your peace feels unfair to people who are still negotiating with their pain. They're still hurting because they're waiting for you to crack, to miss them publicly, to reach out privately, to prove you cared the way you used to. But you're not cracking, you're stabilizing. And that stability makes them feel disposable. Not because you intended it, but because detachment removes emotional hierarchy. You didn't replace them. You replaced the need for them. They're shocked because your detachment didn't turn you bitter. It turned you lighter, clearer, more focused. That outcome confuses them. They expected damage. Instead, they got distance and growth. They're hurting because they stayed attached to the version of you that no longer exists. You didn't just detach from them, you detached from who you used to be with them. They're still hurting because they thought healing would take longer for you. They thought time would level the field. But healing isn't about time, it's about decisions. You chose to stop bleeding. You chose to stop hoping. You chose to detach fully. And now, while they're still asking why, you're already living the answer. They're still hurting because they stayed emotionally parked at the moment things ended, while you treated the ending like a turning point, not a destination. You didn't sit in the wreckage asking why it happened. You salvaged what was left of yourself and moved forward. That difference in response makes them feel abandoned by time itself. They're shocked because you didn't need mutual healing. They assumed you'd stay connected through pain, bonded by damage. Instead, you healed independently, and independence broke the illusion that suffering was shared. They're hurting because your detachment exposes their attachment. When one person lets go completely, the other is forced to feel everything alone. And loneliness hits harder when you expected company and pain. They're shocked because you didn't seek validation for your healing. You didn't need them to acknowledge your pain for it to stop hurting. You validated yourself, and that removed their relevance entirely. They're still hurting because they keep checking your emotional temperature, hoping to find warmth, nostalgia, or cracks. What they find instead is neutrality. And neutrality is colder than anger. They're shocked because you didn't weaponize the past. You didn't bring receipts. You didn't rehash wounds. You simply stopped carrying them. That restraint unsettles people who expected emotional warfare. They're hurting because detachment changed the power dynamic overnight. Pain used to be mutual ground. Now pain belongs only to them, and that imbalance feels cruel even though it's natural. They're shocked because your detachment didn't come with bitterness. Bitterness would have kept you tied. Instead, you released resentment and took your energy back. They're still hurting because they believed your heart was permanently accessible. Detachment taught them access is conditional and conditions were violated. They're shocked because you didn't detach gradually for them to adjust. You detached fully because partial detachment only prolongs damage. They're hurting because they can't accuse you of wrongdoing. You didn't cheat, lie, or retaliate. You simply chose yourself. And that's a loss they can't argue against. They're shocked because your life didn't stall after detaching, it expanded. That expansion feels like betrayal to someone still shrinking in pain. They're still hurting because they expected to matter longer in your healing process. They didn't expect to be excluded entirely. They're shocked because your detachment wasn't cold-hearted, it was clean-hearted. You removed what hurt without contaminating what remained. They're hurting because they keep revisiting the emotional bond while you've already dismantled it internally. Bonds don't survive when only one person keeps feeding them. They're shocked because detachment didn't make you lonely. It made you peaceful. That outcome rewrites everything they believed about loss. They're still hurting because they hoped your healing would circle back to them. Healing doesn't circle back, it moves forward. They're shocked because your detachment didn't erase empathy, it redirected it inward. You stopped pouring empathy into places that drained you. They're hurting because your calm feels like dismissal. But it's not dismissal, it's resolution. They're shocked because while they're still asking how you moved on so fast, you're no longer thinking about how to explain it. And that's the final fracture. They're still hurting inside the story. While you've already closed the book, learned the lesson, and walked away without needing them to understand. They're shocked because your detachment didn't come from hatred, it came from completion. You didn't leave with unfinished emotions dragging behind you. You left after understanding everything so clearly that nothing was left to debate. That kind of exit feels brutal to people who are still confused, still bargaining, still emotionally bleeding. They're still hurting because they expected your pain to mirror theirs. They assumed suffering would keep you tethered. Instead, you processed the pain fully and refused to live inside it. Watching you stand steady while they're still collapsing makes them feel like they lost more than a relationship, they lost emotional equality. They're shocked because you didn't detach out of impulse. You detached with discipline. Every day you chose distance over comfort, silence over explanation, peace over familiarity. That level of self-control feels threatening to people who still depend on emotional chaos to feel connected. They're still hurting because your detachment erased their influence. They can't provoke you, can't guilt you, can't pull reactions out of you anymore. And losing influence feels worse than losing affection. It tells them they no longer matter in the way they once did. They're shocked because your detachment didn't make you bitter. It made you grounded, stronger, clearer. That transformation messes with them because it proves the pain didn't destroy you, it refined you. They're still hurting because they stayed emotionally loyal to a version of you that no longer exists. You didn't just detach from them, you detached from who you were when you tolerated less than you deserved. They're shocked because while they're still trying to survive the ending, you already turned it into a beginning. And that truth hurts more than any argument ever could, because it means you didn't lose them, you outgrew them. Their betrayal didn't just hurt you, it reshaped you. It took the innocent softness in your soul and reforged it into something sharper, colder, indestructible. They thought the pain would break you, weaken you, maybe even silence you. But instead, it transformed you into something they never anticipated. Someone who no longer fears losing anything because they already took the worst from you. What terrifies them now is not who you were, but who you became afterward. They remember the gentle version of you, the one who forgave easily, who loved without hesitation, who believed in people even when they gave you every reason not to. They remember the kindness they stabbed, and they see the consequences in your eyes now, a dangerous calm, a terrifying composure. It scares them that you stop pleading, questioning, or demanding explanations. They expected anger. They expected chaos. They expected you to fall apart, but you didn't. You stood up, wiped the blood off your trust, and walked forward without looking back. That silence, that control, that's what turned you dangerous in their eyes. There's something chilling about someone who has been betrayed and still chooses to rise. Not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly, with that eerie strength that comes from understanding exactly what people are capable of and refusing to be naive ever again. Your danger is rooted in clarity. They never imagined you would evolve into someone who sees through manipulation instantly, someone who reads intentions before words even leave a mouth, someone who doesn't romanticize red flags anymore. They're scared because the person they betrayed can no longer be fooled. Their betrayal taught you emotional distance, a skill they never expected you to learn. You no longer give unearned loyalty. You no longer chase validation. You no longer offer access to your heart freely. They feel the doors closing, the walls rising, and the warmth they used to exploit turning into ice. The version of you they betrayed depended on them. The version standing before them now depends on no one. That independence shakes them, because for the first time, they realize you don't need them or anyone to feel whole. You became dangerous the moment you stopped explaining your worth, when you stopped trying to convince people to treat you right, when you stopped fighting for places where your presence was seen as optional. You outgrew the cage they built for you, and they panicked when they saw the bars bending. Their betrayal became your awakening. The kind of awakening that comes with a new level of self-awareness, a new level of self-respect, and a new level of self-control. They didn't just lose your trust, they lost access to the most vulnerable parts of you. They tremble at the fact that you no longer react emotionally to their presence. You don't argue, you don't cry, you don't justify, you observe. And that ability to stay unaffected is more frightening than anger could ever be. Because dangerous people aren't the loud ones. They're the ones who have seen the worst, survived it, and now move with a quiet confidence born from pain. That's you. Calm, calculated, controlled. They can't predict you anymore. They realize too late that the betrayal they used to break you actually built you. It toughened your skin, strengthened your boundaries, sharpened your intuition. The very storm they created became the force that made you unstoppable. You're dangerous now because you know exactly who deserves a seat in your life and who doesn't. You no longer hand out second chances like candy. You no longer entertain people who drain you. You cut ties cleanly and walk away without regrets. Your danger lies in your ability to detach, to walk away from what once mattered without hesitation, to choose peace over chaos, to value yourself more than the history you had with anyone. Betrayal taught you the art of letting go, and that scares them. They can't manipulate someone who has mastered control over their own emotions. They can't guilt-trip someone who doesn't fear losing people. They can't intimidate someone who's already been through the worst and survived. Their power died the moment you realized yours. What frightens them most is the way you look at them now. Not with hatred, but with indifference. Hate still shows you care. Indifference shows you don't. And that emotional distance is more threatening than any revenge they imagined. You became dangerous because you learned how to protect your peace, how to guard your energy, how to reserve your kindness for those who deserve it. You're selective now, not wounded. Strong, not broken. A warrior, not a victim. Their betrayal made you wiser in ways that comfort would have never taught you. You became someone who listens to actions, not words. Someone who chooses solitude over fake company. Someone who doesn't rush love, friendship, or trust anymore. You're dangerous because you survived what should have destroyed you. And survival always leaves a mark that glows with resilience, not revenge. A mark they can see every time they look at you and realize they no longer have access to the person they once underestimated. They're scared because they watched you rebuild yourself from the ground up, brick by brick, wound by wound, truth by truth. And your rebuilt version is stronger than anything they ever imagined. They're scared because you learned how to fight battles they never thought you'd win. Battles inside yourself. Battles with your own doubts. Battles with the lies they fed you. That kind of growth is intimidating. They're scared because you didn't become cruel like them, you became controlled. You didn't become heartless, you became careful. You didn't become bitter, you became selective. That balance between darkness and discipline is lethal. What makes you dangerous is that you don't seek revenge. You don't need it. Your success is your statement, your peace is your power, your evolution is your retaliation. And nothing haunts a betrayer more than seeing the person they hurt rise without them. Their betrayal didn't break you, it released you. It allowed you to shed the version of yourself that tolerated disrespect. It forced you to become the person you were always meant to be, sharper, wiser, colder, and infinitely harder to deceive. And that's what scares them the most, that their betrayal didn't ruin you. It unleashed you. They're shaken by the way you learn to analyze people with precision now. Before, you trusted first and questioned later, but betrayal taught you to observe quietly, to study patterns instead of promises. You became someone who sees the truth before it's spoken. That level of awareness makes you untouchable, and that terrifies them more than any anger ever could. They hate that you learned how to be alone without feeling lonely. That you rebuilt your world without needing their presence, their voice, their validation. Independence is the one language betrayers never expect their victims to speak fluently, but you mastered it. Now they see you walking alone, growing alone, shining alone, and it burns them every time. What scares them is how deeply you transformed, not on the outside, but internally, where it matters. Your mind is sharper. Your spirit is heavier. Your sense of self is fortified like steel. They can't access you emotionally anymore because you outgrew the weakness they depended on. You became someone they can't manipulate, can't confuse, can't destabilize. Your silence is a weapon now. Not a passive one, a powerful one. They used to rely on your need to explain yourself, to save the connection, to keep the peace. But now you say nothing. You let people reveal who they are without interference. And that stillness, that refusal to engage, is what makes you dangerous. It leaves them powerless. They're terrified by your lack of reaction. Because a person who doesn't respond is a person who has already healed past you. They wanted chaos. They wanted breakdowns. They wanted you to spiral. But instead, you leveled up. You didn't crumble, you evolved. And evolution is always the greatest revenge. Now, when they look at you, they don't see the old you they thought they could toy with. They see someone who survived emotional warfare and learned how to build armor out of lessons. You became someone who knows their worth with frightening certainty, and people who know their worth can never be controlled. That realization taunts them. They fear your growth because it exposes their stagnation, while they remain the same, childish, manipulative, unhealed. You accelerated past them. It's not your darkness that scares them. It's your elevation, your refusal to stay small, your decision to rise instead of rot. Your glow embarrasses them. What truly disturbs them is that you didn't need closure, apologies, or explanations. You walked away without looking back, without asking for anything, without giving them a chance to rewrite the narrative. Betrayers hate when the person they wounded writes their own ending, especially when it's a powerful one. They're haunted by the memory of the person you used to be: soft, trusting, vulnerable. But that version of you is gone forever. What stands in its place is someone who learned how to protect themselves. Someone who embraces both light and darkness with balance. Someone who refuses to shrink for anyone ever again. They always thought you'd give them a sign, didn't they? A warning, a trembling goodbye, a final plea for them to get their act together. Ah, how cute, how predictable. They built their ego around the idea that you'd never leave without creating a scene, but you did the one thing they never prepared for. You vanished. No fireworks, no fight, no closure, just silence. And oh, how that silence haunts them now. You see, people like them can endure your tears, your anger, your explanations. What they can't endure is the quiet. The quiet forces them to think, to replay, to rewind, to ask themselves, what exactly did I do? And suddenly they realize it wasn't one moment. It was every moment. Every disrespect they brushed off. Every lie they told themselves you'd swallow. Every mistake they assumed you'd forgive. You left so cleanly that your absence became a mirror, and now they're staring at a version of themselves they can't escape. A version they can't blame on you. A version they can't sugarcoat. They don't remember losing you in one grand explosion. No. They remember losing you in 1,000 little cuts they delivered with a smile. And now the fun part begins, because the mind, dear friend, is a cruel archivist. It never forgets what the heart tries to bury. Now they're sitting alone at 2 a.m., replaying conversations they thought you forgot, replaying moments where you flinched, moments where you fell silent, moments where your eyes dimmed, moments they shrugged off. Now those moments are loud enough to keep them awake, loud enough to choke them. Isn't it funny? They didn't care when you were there, but now that you're gone, you're everywhere. In their memories, in their guilt, in the corners of their insecurities. They can't escape you, not because you're haunting them, but because they're haunting themselves. They didn't realize you were leaving, because you didn't slam the door. You simply stopped opening it. You didn't make threats. You didn't create ultimatums. You just stopped showing up. And now they understand the elegance of that move, the sophistication of that silence, the power of a goodbye that wasn't spoken, but felt. They thought losing you would feel like losing an argument. Instead, it feels like losing oxygen. And the best part? They can't even tell anyone the truth. They can't admit their mistakes, their selfishness, their carelessness, because doing that would mean stating aloud what they already know in private. They ruined something they never deserved in the first place. They replay the way you stopped laughing at their jokes. They replay the moment you pulled your energy back. They replay the shift in your eyes, that tiny, barely noticeable flicker that said, "I'm done." They replay the moment you looked at them like you saw everything and decided they weren't worth fighting for. But the real torture, oh, the real exquisite torture, is knowing you didn't leave for someone else. You left for yourself. That's what ruins them. That's what poisons their pride. That's what keeps them stuck in an endless loop of mistakes they can't undo. Because you didn't walk out to replace them. You walked out to reclaim yourself. And now, while you breathe freely, they choke on the memories. They replay every moment they could have done better. Every apology they never said. Every kindness they withheld. Every time they took you for granted. You left without warning, and now they live with the consequence. You didn't need revenge. You didn't need chaos. You didn't need to hurt them. They're hurting themselves, one memory at a time. You know what really drives them mad? It's not that you left. It's that you didn't give them a final performance. No tears, no speeches, no dramatic exit, just absence. And nothing unsettles the guilty more than an empty stage. Because now they're forced, absolutely forced to replay every scene of your time together, and suddenly they're realizing they weren't the hero they told themselves they were. No. They were the villain wrapped in cheap charm, hoping you'd never notice the cracks in their mask. But you did, quietly, slowly, completely. And your silence now? Oh, it's driving them insane. Because silence is the one sound you cannot argue with. Silence leaves them alone with their thoughts, and their thoughts are not kind. They remember the way you softened for them and how they exploited it. They remember the moments you reached out and how they shrugged you off. They remember the times you stayed loyal while they entertained distractions. They remember your heart and how they played with it like a toy that would always fix itself. But it didn't, did it? It cracked. Then it closed. Then it disappeared. Now they sit there, rewinding the tape of your history together like a lunatic searching for clues. Where did I lose them? What did I do wrong? Everything. That's the part they hate the most. They didn't lose you in a single blow. They lost you in every moment they dismissed you. Every second they underestimated you. Every day they thought you'd stay, no matter how little they gave. And now, every time their mind quiets, it hits them like a punchline from a cruel joke. You didn't leave because you were weak. You left because you finally saw your own worth. They don't fear your presence anymore. They fear your absence. It echoes. It exposes. It condemns. Now they hear your silence everywhere. In the conversations you're no longer part of. In the routines you no longer orbit. In the peace you reclaimed and refused to return. You left without warning, and now they're stuck replaying a movie where they were never the protagonist, just the mistake. And the ending? Oh, the ending is the sweetest part, because now they understand something they can never unlearn. You were the best thing they mishandled, and the worst loss they can never reverse. They can't fix it. They can't reach you. They can't apologize their way out of consequences. All they can do is rewind, and rewind, and rewind, while you're finally living a life where their shadow doesn't touch a single corner. You know what the funniest part is? They still think you leaving was the tragedy. No. The real tragedy is that they finally understand the story. After the main character walked out of the script, you didn't shout. You didn't cry. You didn't demand closure from people who never deserved a voice in your ending. You just stood up and vanished from their narrative. And now they replay every second like detectives at a crime scene. Was it that day? That argument? That moment? Oh, they're spiraling. And spiraling minds? They make the best entertainment. Because now they see it. The disrespect, the lies, the laziness, the unkept promises, all the little cuts they thought you'd never feel. They never realized you were counting, quietly, carefully, coldly. You turned every wound into data, every insult into evidence, every disappointment into strategy. And when the scales tipped, when the final straw didn't break you but enlightened you, you walked, no speech, no apology, no grand finale, just the door closing, soft, clean final. And now look at them, hunted by their own memory, haunted by a ghost that's still alive. They hear your silence like a scream they can't turn off. They see your absence every time they open their phone. They feel the consequences every time they lie down at night. Because now they're replaying everything they did to lose you. Every mistake, every betrayal, Every moment they thought you wouldn't leave. The irony? They treated you like you were replaceable, and ended up losing the one person they'll never find again. See, that's the punchline. The joke they never caught until it was too late. You weren't their option. You were their blessing, and they threw it away like trash. And now you're gone. Not blocked, forgotten. Not distant, untouchable. Not angry free. They don't get access to your future. They don't get to shape your growth. They don't get to rewrite the story. Their role expired the moment they underestimated you. Their relevance ended the moment they pushed too far. Their control died the moment you stopped caring. And that's what burns them the most. Not that you left, but that you left without leaving a piece of yourself behind. You walked away whole, stronger, sharper, colder. And they're stuck with the memories, the guilt, the realization, the never-ending loop of their own stupidity. You left without warning. Now they replay every mistake because it's all they have left of you. They loved the angel version of you, the one who forgave too quickly, loved too deeply, and overlooked too much. They adored that softness because it made you predictable, controllable, pliable. They counted on your goodness to keep you quiet, to keep you loyal, to keep you from ever waking up to what they were doing behind your back. They didn't realize angels only stay where they feel safe. They kept pushing, testing, poking, convinced your kindness had no breaking point. They chipped at your wings like it was a game, mocking your purity, your loyalty, your compassion. Every betrayal was a little cut they assumed wouldn't matter. Every disrespect was a joke they thought you'd just laugh off. They believed angels don't bleed. They believed wrong. When the angel cracked, they didn't even notice. They were too busy enjoying the comfort of your patience, too busy assuming you'd never change. They didn't see the quiet shift happening inside you, the slow extraction of innocence replaced by understanding, by realism, by coldness. And by the time they realized it, the transformation was already irreversible. You didn't become a demon out of desire. You became one out of necessity. You learned that purity doesn't protect you from people who enjoy breaking what's pure. You learned that kindness is a language not everyone deserves to hear. You learned that sometimes you have to grow fangs to survive the hands that claim to love you. And now they fear you not because you're harmful, but because you're no longer harmless. They see the way you speak now, the way you move, the way you carry yourself. They feel the absence of the softness they used to exploit. They feel the chill of the boundaries they never thought you'd enforce. You became someone who doesn't beg for explanations, doesn't cling for validation, doesn't dance for attention, and the loss of their control terrifies them more than anything. They wanted an angel they could handle, not a force they couldn't predict. They whisper, "You've changed," as though it wasn't their hands that sculpted the new version of you, as though the demon they now fear didn't grow from the wounds they inflicted. They forget that you were gentle until gentleness became your downfall. The demon they fear isn't cruel. It's selective. It chooses silence over chaos, distance over desperation, self-respect over self-sacrifice. It isn't vengeful. It's aware. It isn't angry. It's done. And that scares them more than rage ever could. Rage means you still care. Silence means you don't. They don't fear your darkness, they fear the consequences of losing your light, because without your light, their shadows become visible. Their lies, their jealousy, their manipulations, all exposed in the absence of the angel who once softened their image. You were their comfort zone, their emotional safety net, their guaranteed forgiveness. They relied on your purity to balance their toxicity. Now they face the world without your softness shielding them. And that is a punishment they never saw coming. They try to paint you as the bad one now, because accepting responsibility would require them to admit what they did. It's easier to demonize you than to admit they broke the best thing that ever happened to them. It's easier to act scared of you than to confess what they did to the angel you once were. When you stopped giving chances, they called you cold. When you stopped tolerating disrespect, they called you aggressive. When you walked away, they called you heartless. But you were none of those things. You were simply finished. And they can't stand the idea that the monster they see is just the mirror of their own actions. Now they tread lightly around you, choosing words carefully, avoiding the entitlement they once spoke with. Funny how people grow polite when they can no longer predict your reaction. Funny how they learn respect only when fear enters the room. But the fear isn't of you, it's of accountability. It's of the truth catching up. It's of the realization that they pushed a good soul into a place where softness no longer survives. They created the very energy that now intimidates them. And the most poetic part? You didn't become colder to punish them. You became colder to protect yourself. Their fear is just a side effect. They want the old you back, but they'll never admit it. The one who cared too deeply, loved too openly, trusted too quickly. But that version died the moment they decided your kindness was a weakness. The angel they broke isn't coming back just because they regret it now. You learn to live without them in a way they never expected. You learn to stand alone with a strength they never believed you possessed. And every time they try to approach you now, they're reminded of the irreversible truth. They had the angel, and they destroyed it. So now they face the demon, not a monster, but a survivor. Not cruel, but untouchable. Not dark, but awakened. And the fear they feel is nothing compared to the peace you finally found. Because the real twist is this. The demon they fear is simply the angel they taught how to stop caring. They never expected you to rise from the ruins they left behind. They assumed breaking you would keep you small, quiet, dependent. But pain has a habit of teaching lessons strength never could. What they shattered inside you didn't stay shattered, it reconstructed itself into something sharper, wiser, untouchable. And that new construction is what terrifies them now. Because now you see through everything, the excuses, the manipulation, the faux innocence they hide behind. You see their intentions before they finish their sentences. You sense their patterns before they even realize they're repeating them. You've developed a radar only the broken ever earn. And there's nothing scarier to them than someone who can no longer be deceived. Your silence has become its own kind of weapon, not because you use it against them, but because they no longer know what it means. Before, silence meant you were hurt. Now, silence means you're done. It's a silence that doesn't wait, doesn't chase, doesn't explain. And that silence is a language they never learned how to handle. They used to love the version of you who explained your feelings, justified your boundaries, apologized for your reactions. But that person is gone. Now you carry yourself like someone who refuses to be understood by people who never tried to understand you in the first place. And that shift hits them harder than any revenge ever could. They thought breaking you would satisfy their ego, but now they're left with a version of you they can't access, can't manipulate, can't decode. They used to see you as emotional clay they could mold to their liking. Now they're dealing with stone. And no matter how much they try, they can't sculpt remorse into something they broke. Sometimes they try to return with kindness, as if kindness can erase the memory of who they were when you needed them most. They test your reaction, hoping maybe, just maybe, you're soft again. But you greet their attempts with a neutrality that sends chills through them. Not anger, not bitterness, just distance. And that is far more frightening. They look at you now and feel something unfamiliar, accountability. It creeps into their conscience like a shadow they can't avoid, because facing you means facing the version of themselves that caused your transformation. And people rarely fear you, they fear the reflection of themselves they see in your eyes. You don't need to punish them. Their guilt does that better than you ever could. Every time they remember who you used to be, they realize what they lost. Every time they see how strong you are now, they realize what they wasted. You became the consequence they never calculated for. Your detachment is the poetic justice they earned. You don't hate them. Hate would require emotional investment. You simply don't carry them anymore. And they're slowly learning that being forgotten by someone who once loved you deeply hurts more than being hated. Your absence echoes louder than your presence ever did. When you were gentle, they didn't listen. Now that you're gone, they replay every moment trying to understand where they went wrong. The answer is simple. They mistook an angel's patience for permanence. And the irony? The demon they fear isn't violent, loud, or chaotic. It's calm, collected, self-assured. It's the kind of darkness that doesn't scream, it observes. It's the kind of strength born from survival, not destruction. It's the kind of energy people fear because they know they can't control it. What they fear most isn't your darkness, but your clarity. The clarity that let you walk away without shaking. The clarity that let you rebuild without bitterness. The clarity that made you realize that losing them wasn't a loss, it was liberation. And nothing rattles a guilty conscience more than seeing you flourish without them. Now they stand there, wanting access to a version of you that no longer exists. They search for the softness they once dismissed. They search for the warmth they once took for granted. But the angel they ruined is gone, and the being standing in front of them now is someone they don't know how to handle. You didn't become a demon. You became immune. Immune to manipulation, immune to emotional games, immune to people who mistake kindness for weakness. And immunity is far more terrifying to those who once fed off your softness. They taught you how to stop caring, and now they pay the price for the lesson they forced upon you.